Greetings, everybody, and welcome along to the fourth weekend in the 2025 championship of the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche Sprint Challenge of Brazil, presented by C6 Bank. But we've gone rogue for this weekend. We have stepped out of our native Brazil, and we've gone for a bit of an overseas sojourn as we find ourselves at the Autódromo Algarve in Portugal. A very natural place to go on holiday, because of course the language is exactly the same as if it would be if we were still in Brazil. Wonderful to see everybody here, really enjoying the sense of occasion here on the Portimão circuit. And with this being the fourth round of the 2025 championship, we are in for a really exciting duel. For the man in pole position, it's never been more important for him to get some decent points on the board. For Marcel Müller, he is clutching at straws in his championship attack. He's only got 3 weekends here at Portimão, Estoril later in the neighbouring Portugal, and of course the season finale at Interlagos to do anything he possibly can to try and break the deficit. He needs perfect scores all the way to stand any chance of fighting back in this championship. But of course, maximum point scores are only going to be half the challenge, because he then needs, of course, to continue that in the hope that Miguel Paludo doesn't get decent points on the board. He currently leads the championship with 132 points. If you count the one dropped score that the drivers discard, he's actually on 113, just 5 points ahead of Christian Hahn. But the big drama is that if you don't count the discards, he is 102 points ahead of Marcel Müller, who is on pole position. Marcel Müller has had the most horrendous bad luck across the first 3 weekends of the season, only scoring points twice, and on both of those occasions in race 2 at the first 2 weekends of the championship at the opening weekends at Velocita. On both occasions, he got a puncture while leading in race 1 and then had to fight his way from the back of the grid in race 2. So he's had only 30 points scored from 6 races so far this year. He had a nightmare at Interlagos when he didn't score a single point. So for Marcel Müller, it's basically win or bust for all of the remaining 6 sprint races this season. And of course, don't forget that while this battle could well be over for Marcel Müller, even though he's starting from pole position, this is a good warm-up for him for the endurance category, which kicks off next week here at Portimão. It's going to be a long holiday for the Porsche Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge drivers. Don't forget, of course, we got the Sprint Challenge straight after this battle, and that's going to see Caio Chavez, the man who starts from the championship lead in this one. He did not set a time in qualifying, so an opportunity for the likes of Gerson Campos, Leonardo Herrmann, and Lucas Locatelli to chase after him. We'll pick that story up a little bit later on, but for the time being, it's all about Marcel Müller and his desperation of a comeback. Hello, everybody. Jake Sanson here in the commentary box here at Portimão as we get ourselves ready for the first of 2 races today and 2 races tomorrow. It'll be a big challenge to see who comes through. Can anybody match Marcel Müller? Every time Marcel Müller has gone into a race this year in race 1 in the lead, it has turned into absolute disaster. Is there any chance that he can salvage something from the second half of this season? It's definitely going to be a big ask. He is going to be starting on the front row of the grid alongside Christian Hahn, with championship leader Miguel Paludo behind both of them. Thiago Vivacqua lining up P4 of the grid, with Miguel Mariotti and Antonella Bassani lining up in P6. A much stronger effort from her so far this weekend. And then Matias Camparato, the teenager, who is, of course, the reigning F4 Brazil champion, alongside Lucas Salas and then Silvio Modestoni and Alço Feldman-Neto, fresh off the back of his campaign on this very circuit, I should point out, because the Euro Cup 3 teams managed to come here to Portimão a few weeks ago, but then they've also been racing last week for Alço Feldman-Neto. He was competing in Euro Cup 3 on the Paul Ricard circuit at La Castellet in France. So it's not been that big a mission for Alço Feldman-Neto to get here to Portimão. For everybody else, it's been a bit of a trek, but Alço Feldman-Neto was already over here racing in Euro Cup 3 last weekend in neighbouring France. So very impressive to see how he's been doing. Seba Malucelli is alongside Nelson Monteiro on the grid. And then we have Marcos Regadas and Christian Meur from Francisco Horta and Linio Perez, Israel Salmon and Yosemar Junior. And then we have Rodrigo Melo, Nelson Marcondes, Roman Zimkovic, Gustavo Janon, Carlos Campos, Bruno Campos, Flavio Champao, Vanya Pontes, Marco Pisani, Paulo Souza, Marco Billi, and Eduardo Menossi. A 30-car grid. And don't forget, for all of the drivers, not only do we get a sprint race this weekend, we also get the endurance category kickstarting for its first of 3 weekends this season. The second of those taking place at Estoril, the final of those taking place in the closing stages of the season at the Interlagos circuit, the home of Formula One in Brazil, the home of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, and of course, not far away from the closing stages of the Formula One season, not just in terms of location similarity, but also in terms of the calendar year itself. So there's a bit of a holiday atmosphere here in Portimão. Always really exciting when a national championship in one country decides to go and take a trip elsewhere. And certainly here at Portimão, this is a fantastic race circuit for these Porsche Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge cars. It's been a long time since they raced here. A good 10 years, I think, was the last time that this championship made a trip over to Portimão. Last year, of course, it was only Estoril that saw the teams go to battle. This year, we're in Estoril and Portimão, so we get to go to both of the Portuguese Grand Prix Formula One venues that have been holding races here since the 1980s. So it will be a fascinating weekend to see how the competitors gear up for the start of this one. In the Sprint Challenge, of course, we're going to have a very exciting battle right from the outset. And it's going to be Sadek Leiter who's going to be starting from pole position in that race later on, along with Leonardo Herrmann and Cecilia Rebello on the second row alongside Lucas Locatelli. So there's a lot to get excited about for that Sprint Challenge race, which of course follows this one. They don't go to the starting grid and have a grid walk in the Sprint Challenge. As soon as the race finishes in the Carrera Cup, we have the podium ceremonies for all 3 categories, and then we dial ourselves back into the mix again for the Sprint Challenge. They go out for the formation lap and have an interesting challenge out on the course. There is Christian Hahn lining up on the front row of the starting grid alongside the man who's desperately trying to salvage something from his 2025 championship campaign, Marcel Muller, in the 544. And there is Lightning McQueen himself, Alcy Feldmanito, in the number 95 car. He's looking so much more laid back and relaxed than when he was at the Euro Cup 3 category here a few weeks ago. And, of course, last week at Paul Ricard, because Alcy Feldmanito has really been struggling to adapt to the Euro Cup 3 car. Here, he's just racing because he loves it, and he gets to play with his dad in this category, of course, who drives the number 1 Tag Heuer car. So Alcy Feldman Sr., who's going to be battling his way to fruition. Of course, Alcy Feldman Sr. not actually racing this weekend. Very unfortunate that he's not able to compete. Hopefully, everything will be back to normal again, ready for him for next week. But it's very strange not to see him. Follow the social media handles at Porsche Cup Brazil on Facebook, at Porsche Cup Brazil on Instagram, at Porsche Cup Brazil on YouTube, of course. And you can watch all of the action as it happens. And then, of course, Porsche GT3Cup.com.br is the website for everything to happen. If you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell on the Porsche Cup Brazil channel, you'll never miss a moment of the action in the 2025 season. It really has been a fantastic start to the year as things currently lay themselves down ready ahead of the first of 2 races here this weekend. It's been really exciting to see how everybody's got themselves into the mix thus far. And of course, we've got ourselves in a really exciting campaign now as everybody is prepared for another exciting duel out on the course. But there's a lot to get excited about as the race battle is ready and primed. So we'll get to see another exciting duel out on the course. Everybody just getting themselves in. That's the man who's going to be taking up a position at the very back of the grid. That's Eduardo Menossi. Miguel Paludo, championship leader, 3rd position on the grid. No pressure at all for him, really, going into this one, because he's got a dropped score. And with his dropped score, he still has 5 points over Christian Hahn. So he's looking really confident going into this one from 3rd on the grid. But the man with all the pressure on him is the man in pole position, Marcel Muller, who only has 30 points banked from the season so far. So he is not going to have it easy going into this one at all. It's a really tricky situation for all of the contenders. But it's going to be really exciting to see how it all progresses and all plays out on this gorgeous, picturesque circuit. They call this place the roller coaster, and it totally is a justifiable nickname, because this place really does have a little bit of everything. It has peaks, it has troughs, it has dips, it has elevation and camber changes. It's a real climb around this place. I only really got to see this circuit as a commentator in the flesh a couple of seasons ago for the first time, and this place really is very dramatic indeed. The Autódromo Internacional Algarve, the scene of where Lewis Hamilton got his 100th Grand Prix victory in Formula One, the first time ever that a Formula One driver's ever got a century out of their career as a racing driver. But this place also gives us plenty of excitement on Porsche Cup Brasil racing. It's wide open, but the corners themselves are quite dusty, quite tricky to balance. So we should see a lot of good scraps out on the course here. We'll see a lot of great battles and great duels as well. So expect some really exciting battles over the course of proceedings. It's going to be a very strong category for all of our competitors to duel over. And we are very excited to try and get an understanding here as to who's going to do what and who's going to get the job done. Celebrating 20 years, of course, of the Porsche Cup Brasil. It kicked off in 2005, and it really has been a sensational journey through the echelons of the sport. From Interlagos all those years ago to where we continue our journey 20 years later. This sport has everything. Just take a look at this. For once, we've decided to go on holiday in the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche Sprint Challenge of Brazil. For once, it's not going to take place in its nation that is, of course, the home. But we've gone on holiday to continental Europe and to the beautiful surrounding coastlines of Portugal, the country that gives Brazil its national language and the circuit that gives racing drivers a chill on the back of their spine. The Autódromo Internacional Algarve is different from other race circuits. They refer to this place affectionately as the roller coaster. You'll never work harder on the elevation and camber changes than you will at the Autódromo Algarve. Hello everybody, Jake Sanson in the commentary box as we prepare for the fourth weekend of the Sprint Championship here in Portimão in Portugal, celebrating 20 years of the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil and encompassing that with the Porsche Sprint Challenge of Brazil, which sadly has not been going quite as long as the original Carrera Cup of Brazil. But these two races back to back, of course, as soon as the final podium celebration finishes for the Carrera Cup, they will send the drivers in Sprint Challenge on their way. But all eyes are going to be on the man on pole position, Marcel Muller, who for the last 3 weekends has led the race in the early stages, only to pick up a puncture that has destroyed his weekend in 3 consecutive outings, and also, of course, destroyed his championship chances. He's only got 30 points from the first 6 races of the championship, whereas his main championship opposition, Miguel Paludo, has 132. If you discount his worst score, that drops him to 113. 5 points ahead of Christian Hahn, but he is looking very relaxed in 3rd position and looking good for yet another title. But for Marcel Muller, it really is make or break. We thought lightning wouldn't strike twice in Velocita in the 2nd round of the championship. We couldn't believe it happened a 3rd time at Interlagos last time out. But at Portimão, surely the jinx will be broken for the pole sitter, Marcel Muller. The safety car leads us around on the formation lap, and this is going to be a sensational battle. In Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, anything can happen, and it usually does. We go around for the formation lap, and the 30 cars set off on the circuit. Here is the starting grid for the first of our 4 races over the weekend. It's now or never for Marcel Muller in pole position. 3 wins taken off him by a puncture. Can he do anything in race 4? Race 1, Christian Hahn Alongside him on the grid, 5 points back from the championship leader, Miguel Paludo, who lines up third on the starting grid. No pressure at all for car number 7, the legend of our sport, lining up on the second row, alongside Thiago Vivacqua, who's had a very strong start to his season, including already a couple of victories. Miguel Mariotti lining up alongside the hard-charging teenager Antonella Bassani, former Sprint Challenge champion 2 years ago, stepping up to Carrera in 2025. Matias Camparato, the reigning F4 Brazil champion, alongside Lucas Salas. Then it's Silvio Modestoni and Lightning McQueen of Brazil, Alci Feldman-Nito, his father not joining him for a change. Row 6 of the grid, Seba Malucelli is alongside Nelson Monteiro. The two sport drivers will be charging their way forward. Row 7, Marcos Regadas alongside Christian Moore, another man stepping up out of the Sprint Challenge last year. Francisco Horta in the Octopus and Linu Perez in the Green Machine. Israel Salman, the former rookie champion, alongside Yosemar Jr. He's the man who carried Ayrton Senna's helmet colours last season across the car. Rodrigo Melo and Nelson Marcondes lining up on the 10th row of the starting grid. 10 more cars to come. Rumen Zimkiewicz alongside Gustavo Salmen. And then on the 12th row of the grid, I had to do my math there very quickly, Carlos Campos is alongside Bruno Campos. Of course, no relation. Then on the 13th row of the starting grid, 25th and 26th for Flavio Champiao alongside Vanya Pontes in the D4U car. The final 4 competitors, Marco Pisani in the leopard print, Paulo Souza in the lime green and neon yellow. And then at the back of the grid, we have Marco Billi alongside the patchwork, Eduardo Menossi. So the 30 cars getting themselves ready for action. This really is the race that can make or break Marcel Muller's championship campaign. Don't forget, of course, that next weekend we're also here at the Portimão circuit for the endurance race. That's going to be really exciting, and that's where we get some of the big celebrities from Brazilian motorsport coming and having a play. Last year, we had none the less a personage than Tony Kanaan, Helio Castro Neves, Rubens Barrichello, and Antonio Felix da Costa coming and joining the fun. So expect some celebrity names next week. Most of those drivers, of course, racing in various other categories, coaching these drivers to get quicker. So Marcel Muller and Christian Hahn on the front row of the grid from Miguel Paludo and Thiago Vivacqua. Then Mariotti, the teenage lady racer Antonella Bassani, threatening to take her first win in Carrera Cup racing. Then it is Matias Camparato and Lucas Salas, Modestoni, Feldman-Nito, Malucelli, Monteiro, Regadas, Moore, Horta, Pires, Salman Jr. And we are racing at Portimão for the first of our 2 races today. The Carrera Cup Brazil field charges their way down to the first corner. They spread out and fan out, but it's going to be Christian Hahn trying to go right round the outside of Marcel Muller. He's going to commit on the throttle, but he has to bail out of it as they go through the first turn. Is everybody going to get through without incident? There's a lot of 2 wide and 3 wide, but for the moment, Marcel Muller holds his nerve, and Christian Hahn round the far side is trying to hold it. There's some dust kicked up in the background, so it could be a little bit racy for the contenders as they try and work their way up the top of the crest. Out of turn 4 and down the drop they will go towards 5, and Paludo is already trying to take on Christian Hahn. He doesn't want to come second best to him. He dives up the inside, and Miguel Paludo moves into second place at the hairpin. Fantastic work for the championship leader. Now he's got his sights firmly set on Marcel Muller. Can Miguel Paludo do the dirty on Marcel Muller on the very first lap? Muller, Paludo, Hahn, Vivacqua, and Antonella Bassani has already worked her way up a couple of positions here. A struggle off the start as they kick up the dust over the top of the crest. Oh, tripping off the road there. That is a big mistake for Matias Camparato. As Brazil's answer to Lightning McQueen, Alci Feldman-Nito, who of course also races in Euro Cup 3, battling his way over the top of the crest. Top 3 have got well clear. Antonella Bassani down to P6, so only losing 1 place then off the initial launch. She's going to have some pressure here, battling away with the likes of Lucas Salas and Thiago Vivacqua at the end of the lap. Very impressive so far. No yellow flags, despite a lot of dust kicked up. This circuit is very wide, though, so the drivers will have been told in the briefing, look, use all the road on the first lap. Try to stay out of each other's way. We don't need a destruction derby here in Portimão. Up over the top of the crest and across the start-finish line we go then. And out in front, it is Muller, Paludo, Hahn, Vivacqua, Salas, Bassani, Regadas, Camparato, Mariotti and Alci Feldman-Nito in the top 10. As round the far side, that's a bit of a challenge from Vivacqua. Salas is going to work his magic to go round the outside. There's the 72, the Mobile 1 car of Antonella Bassani. got great backing here in Brazil from Mobile One, a Porsche Junior. A lot of people wanting her to be the real lady talent that works her way through the Porsche fold and maybe a future career at Le Mans one day. Side by side, Paludo is going to have a little bit of pressure here from Christian Hahn, who's going the long way round into the hairpin at 5. Can he sustain it? They're going to leave each other a bit of room. But it is very tricky at this point in proceedings. It is a very difficult situation as they go around on the top part of the course. A very solid situation for the contenders. A very tricky situation as they work their way forward. Go back on the far side. So up over the top of the crest. Come through. It's going to be an interesting challenge over the top of the crest here as they work their way round in formation. The battle's still raging in this first part of proceedings. It's going to be really tricky as they work their way through. There is the battle for fourth position. Already Thiago Vivacqua has Lucas Salas breathing down his neck. We're on board with Christian Hahn. Christian Hahn doing his best there to try and get away from Miguel Paludo in third position. The battle is raging as they work their way through in close proximity. The battle is very tricky at this point in proceedings. Up over the top of the crest. Over the line once again. Marcel Muller leads the way here. Miguel Paludo trying to hold the station, and that's going to be Antonella Bassani into P5. Good work from her. So Antonella Bassani gets the move that she wanted on Lucas Salas. That's P5 from Bassani. Salas trying to get back at her. No chance on the inside line. Oh, a bit of a run wide there. That looks like a major issue as Alcifeld-Manito can pick up the pieces there. So that's a position made up as Alcifeld-Manito manages to get the run on Miguel Mariotti. So Mariotti drops back into P10 as a result of that. Very tricky, very difficult situation then for the contenders as they work their way back up the hill once more. So not easy to try and predict how this is going to continue to fan out. But a really close battle. Still going very well indeed for our contenders up on the far side. They drop down the crest, up into this long flowing left-hander. And look at that, Marcel Muller's got a very decent start to proceedings again here. And Miguel Paludo all over the back of Christian Hahn as they go dropping down the crest again. Paludo is not under a massive amount of pressure here. Christian Hahn is in front of him and on dropped scores. He is only 5 championship points ahead, but Paludo has got very little pressure. He knows that if Marcel Muller wins the race, that's going to reduce the amount of points available to Christian Hahn to take off him in the championship fight. He doesn't need to worry too much about the opportunity to move further forward. Second and third will be perfectly fine from Paludo's perspective. He doesn't need to panic too much here. Come off the turn, they work their way down the position once again. And so Paludo trying to get off the slipstream of Christian Hahn. Is he going to have a chance to run at him in turn 1? No, he's going to have to bail out of that one. He's not quite close enough. Meanwhile, Antonella Bassani closing up on Thiago Vivacqua with a chance to move forward. So already some very exciting positions for the contenders moving. Oh, so it looks as though there's a drive-through penalty already, and diving up the inside line, that's gone terribly wrong for Lucas Salas, who lost out there to Marcos Regadas. So Lucas Salas has lost about 4 positions in that. Regadas saw the inside line, dived for it, and has nerfed his contender wide there, essentially. That could be investigated. But there is a penalty for the number 25. That is Paulo Sousa. And that is due to a boost discrepancy by the look of it. So he's going to get a drive-through penalty for that one. That's going to drop him right to the back of the field. So with 18.5 minutes still to go then in this first race of the weekend in Carrera Cup. All of the different battles obviously ensuing within the battles. Antonella Bassani really starting to run through to Thiago Vivacqua. Now I'm being told that the reason for the penalty there for Paulo Sousa is that he used his boost button out of the guidelines of when you are permitted to do so. Because you're not allowed, as far as I'm aware, to use your boost in the opening lap of the race. So Paulo Sousa, having used his boost incorrectly, he now gets a drive-through penalty for doing so. You have an allocated amount of boosts that you're allowed to use for the entirety of the weekend, but there's only a couple of times in the weekend when you are not permitted to do so, and unfortunately Paulo Sousa has used the boost at the wrong time, and therefore he gets a drive-through penalty for his troubles. So the top five sweep their way through the first corners. This is great work from the top five cars. Regadas dropping into the clutches of Camperato, Felmanito and Miguel Mariotti, and those podium finishes in the sport category looking good for Regadas, Felmanito, Mariotti, Monteiro and Francisco Horta. Don't forget that in the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche Sprint Challenge paddock, it's the top five that get a podium, not the top three. So as long as you're in the top five, you're doing a fantastic job and you're going to take some silverware with you. Fastest lap of the race, no major shocks there for Marcel Muller, but this is the same situation that he was in at Velocita in round one and round two, as well as at Interlagos, and he came away with a puncture on all three occasions while leading. He genuinely cannot catch a break, and there's just a hope that round four of the championship is going to be the race that makes the difference. So climbing up the crest, there is the 11. That is the car belonging to Flavio Champau, who is currently fourth in the rookie category. Silvio Molostoni, by the way, is the leader of that in 13th overall. And then you've got Bruno Campos, Marco Pisani, Flavio Champau and Vanyo Pontes looking to join him on the rookie podium later. Well, careful, you don't want to run the gauntlet there at the top of the hill and run off the road too often, because that is, of course, going to potentially give you a penalty for track limits. You've got to be so careful. 2 wheels on is okay, 4 wheels off is not okay. So a great little battle here between Vanyo Pontes and Paulo Sousa. Of course, Sousa is going to have to make his way to the pits for the drive-through penalty as we look at Antonella Bassani, 5th position for the 19-year-old female flyer from Brazil. Definitely a real talent for the future. Antonella Bassani was a sprint challenge champion at the age of just 17 and is already running in the top 5 in this year's campaign, her first in Carrera Cup. Good little battle going on further back. This is between Nelson Monteiro and Francisco Horta in the Dayglow pink and purple Octopus car. That's all down to the sponsorship deal he's got bringing into the season, of course. It's a red octopus on the bonnet, a purple octopus on the door, sorry, and a pink octopus on the rear bumper. It's one of the most garish liveries I've ever seen on a Porsche. But Francisco Horta is one of the most garish drivers in the championship. He'll see a gap and slice in, even when it's not quite ready for him. So Christian Hahn is getting back on terms here with Marcel Muller. We're right on board with Christian Hahn. Let's have a listen in. Dropping down the crest. Brake, turn in, dab of power. Let the back end slide just a little bit off the turn, but you don't want it to travel too far, because that's when the tyre degradation really kicks in. And this circuit is infamous for its tyre deg. You got to be so careful around this place. So Marcel Muller leads Christian Hahn, Miguel Paludo, Tiago Vivacqua and Antonella Bassani. Come off the turn, they're going to climb up the crest once again. And this is going to be quite an incredible challenge now. 14 minutes to go in this first of the 2 races today. The second one, of course, is going to be for the sprint challenge, and that's when we get a few more shenanigans in general. Antonella Bassani closing up again. Not quite close enough to slice on the inside of Tiago Vivacqua, as Alci Feldmanito tries to drive away from the 21 of Miguel Mariotti. That's the battle for second in sport. 3 classes within the race, of course, and it's all down to driver pedigree. They all race with the same equipment, they all race with the same number of boosts, but you race in your particular class based on your experience in the category. It is so unusual seeing Alci Feldmanito behind the wheel of the car and his father not being a couple of cars away from him. Alci Feldman Senior, of course, racing with the Tag Heuer Porsche when he's out there. Hopefully that car is going to be back in action again next weekend when we continue here at Portimão, but we switch from the Sprint Championship to the Endurance Championship. That race is going to be 2.5 hours in duration, and it's going to have all of the cars from not just the Porsche Carrera Cup, but also from the Sprint Challenge. We're going to have 6 classes on track at the same time, and what a circuit to do it on here at Portimão. There's the 70. Lucas Salas trying not to trip over these two who are battling for second in sport. Alcifel Benito trying to shake off the attentions here of the 21 of Miguel Mariotti, who dives up the inside line. They're going to go door to door. Is that enough for Mariotti to steal second place of Alcifel Benito? It is. Good move. Very nicely done. Well, excellent effort. Unfortunately, it's all going to come to naught then for the moment for Alcifel Benito. The Lightning McQueen car drops down into third position. Not a good situation for them at all. Up over the top of the crest, but he's got the slipstream. This is where he can try and bounce back. The top five still away clear. Here comes the move from Alcifel Benito into turn one. Can he carry the speed and get himself back into second place? He can. Beautifully done. Into P2 then he goes. And a very exciting run, but now he's going to have a bit of pressure. Lucas Salas is going to try and split up the middle of both of them. It hasn't finished off because Miguel Mariotti's got back on the inside of Alcifel Benito. We're right on board with Lucas Salas. And he's going to go door to door with Fel Benito. Watch out, guys. You've got Nelson Montero for company now. He's going to come over the top of the crest. Braking zone for the hairpin. Dive for the inside line. Alcifel Benito trying to cover the move here in front of Lucas Salas. Door to door. Try not to rub wing mirrors. Climb up the crest. Someone's got to give here, and it's going to be Lucas Salas on the inside of Alcifel Benito. Francisco Horta trying to come right round the outside of Noah Montero. As he dives for the inside line. It's going to be tricky. But can he finish off the move? Oh, it's going to be a tricky one. And now we've got an incident under investigation. That is Paulo Souza and Marco Billy after their little love tap earlier on. So those two cars under investigation. I wonder if either of them gets the penalty there or if they're just going to review it and then take no further action. But this has not gone at all well for Alcifel Benito. Not only has he lost the position in the sport category to Miguel Mariotti, he's also lost the place to Lucas Salas in the Porsche Carrera Cup class. So that puts a real buffer between himself and Mariotti. And look at the way Mariotti's got away. Incredible the distance that he's been able to pull in such a short space of time. 10 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. The top five still well clear. So thank goodness it's going to be a continuation here for Marcel Muller. Still doing a grand job here, only a second clear of Christian Hahn, who is matching him sector for sector around the course. But for Marcel Muller, he doesn't really need to work any harder than he currently is. As long as he stays in front of Christian Hahn, he'll come away with the maximum points from this first of the two races. So he doesn't need to get himself into hot water, doesn't need to stretch himself too far. Just give himself all the tools to get the job done. Nice and easy for the time being. Top five in each of the three classes as things currently stand. Top spot, Marcel Muller, ahead of Christian Hahn, Miguel Paludo, Tiago Vavacqua and Antonella Bassani. That's the top five in the Carrera Cup class. In the sport class, Marcos Regodas leads the way, ahead of Miguel Mariotti, Alcifel Benito, Francisco Horta and Nelson Montero. There's another incident being investigated, and that is the duel between Alcifel Benito and Lucas Salas. And I'm not in the slightest bit surprised they're going to investigate it. So there is the race leader in the sport category. We just talked about Marcos Regodas, and there he is now. He's currently in front of the 118. That is Matias Camparato, one of the youngest men in the race, if not the youngest man in this race, the reigning F4 Brazil champion. There is Miguel Mariotti, currently in second position in the sport category. He's got three drivers behind him in terms of the battle for the podium in the sport class. And those three are Alcifel Benito, Francisco Horta and Nelson Montero. Then we got the top five drivers in the rookie category further back, and the top five at the moment are Silvio Modestoni ahead of Bruno Campos, Marco Pisani, Flavio Champau and Vanier Pontes. So through the first corner goes the 21. That is the car belonging to Miguel Mariotti. No teams, of course, in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil. They're all run in-house by the fleet of mechanics from Porsche Carrera Cup. You've obviously got your crew of sponsors and you've got your family and friends, so it is almost like a team, but it's not an official teams championship like perhaps it would be in the Mobile One Porsche Super Cup, for example. Looks like we got another incident under investigation, and that is the one between Francisco Horta and Lucas Salas. So Lucas Salas has two separate investigations on him at the moment. So things are definitely not going according to plan for Lucas Salas. However, we've got 7.5 minutes to go, and there has not been a single yellow flag, there hasn't been a single safety car period, and there certainly hasn't been a ridiculously big accident yet, which is great news so far. I've got to touch wood to keep that record going. I don't want to jinx it. But the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil field, whilst they are getting a little bit nitty-gritty at times, this circuit really does lend itself to fantastic racing, and the wide open profile of this circuit means you can fit 2 or 3 cars wide here and still have a very decent race of it. But Christian Hahn, he's closing up on Marcel Muller. The gap has gone back down to 0.8 of a second. It's remained steady at a second all the way, but you do kind of get the sense that things are going to get a little bit more spicy towards the end for Christian Hahn. Look, he really is starting to get the moves as Antonella Bassani again tries to put Tiago Vivacqua under some pressure as they work their way through the first turns. Look in the background, Vivacqua's still in front of Bassani for the moment. Marcel Muller is just trying to soak up the pressure from Christian Hahn. He does not need another race where the lead disintegrates. That's already happened 3 times this year. Round 1, Velocita was leading race 1 and a puncture put him out. Round 2, race 1, he was leading at Velocita again, and they got another puncture while leading again. Then at round 3 at Interlagos, unbelievably, while leading in race 1 of round 3, again he picked up a puncture. Just cannot believe the luck of Marcel Muller this season. It's been absolutely catastrophic, and he's only taken a 30 points score haul from 6 races, which when you compare the championship leader, the man who is behind these two and dropping back a bit now, Miguel Paludo, who has 132 points by comparison to Marcel Muller's 30, with only 6 races to go in the championship. That tells you how tricky it is for Marcel Muller to survive in this championship battle. And of course, in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil, you discard your worst score. So the worst score so far this year for Miguel Paludo is 19 points. So he scored 132 before dropped scores. But if you take the dropped scores into account, he's only 5 points ahead of Christian Hahn. He's got 113 to Christian Hahn's 108. 5 minutes to go. Christian Hahn is really trying to put our race leader under pressure. Let's ride on board with Christian Hahn through turn 1 and through sector 1. Gets very close indeed to Marcel Muller under brakes. Back on the power, up the crest through turn 4. Up through the gears. Marcel Muller has the fastest lap of the race, a 1:47.9. Hahn has a 1:48.1. There really isn't much to choose between these two in terms of raw pace. The winner of this race between the two of them is the man who's looked after his tyres the best. Now, there is a penalty, 5 seconds for track limits for the number 10. So that is a track limits penalty for Tiago Vivacqua. Antonella Bassani fans are about to go ballistic, because the lady who's trying to get into 4th position doesn't even need to do so. All she's got to do is stay glued to the rear wing of Tiago Vivacqua, that rear spoiler, and she'll be 4th position whatever happens, because Vivacqua has been given a 5-second penalty for track limits infringements. So Antonella Bassani is going to move up to 4th position, whether she overtakes the man in front or not. Christian Hahn, of course, wants to get the overtaking move. As they come off the turn. Fastest lap of the race, of course, is a 1:47.9 from Marcel Muller. At the moment, they're lapping in the mid-1:48s. So, in terms of the lap times we've got coming from these drivers, I think we're going to have 3 laps to go. Here comes Antonella Bassani again, trying to put Tiago Vivacqua on the back foot, just popping out from behind the slipstream, letting Vivacqua know she's still there. Then Regadas, Camparato, Mariotti, And now Lucas Salas has got Francisco Horta and Alcifel Benito for company. Alcifel Benito still in front of Francisco Horta, but as they go into turn one, he can't get the move then on the 70 of Lucas Salas. They dive into that first sector. Alcifel Benito just trying to keep the rhythm and the flow of this car, which will feel so different to drive around here compared to the Euro Cup 3, and Lucas Salas, the back end kicking out as we are really getting into tyre degradation central now. Don't forget, we've had no yellow flags, never mind any safety cars. So those tyres really are going to be screaming at the drivers. They've been full chat since the start. Normally a safety car period takes the pressure off these compounds a little bit, but it's not going to be the case the way things are currently stacked up. It looks like we're going to go green to checkered. This is where we're going to see a fantastic opportunity now for Francisco Horta to put one over on Lightning McQueen of Brazil, Alcifel Benito in the Rusty's colours. He's a very charming and likeable young man, is Alcifel Benito, but when his standards up, he will be feisty and he'll be racy. A move on the inside from Horta. Can't get close enough to the 95. And if he stays in front, it's not going to be so much ka-chow as it is going to be ka-ching, because Alcifel Benito is still looking good for a top three finish on the inside. Francisco Horta trying to take him. This is for third in the category, don't forget. Alcifel Benito trying to get back in on the inside, and Francisco Horta is going to be running on the outside to the marbles. He stays on the curb. He's got good momentum. Can he drive round the outside of Alcifel Benito? Not yet, but he can now tuck back in for the slipstream. He actually changes his tack and goes for the inside line. Alcifel Benito is ready for him. 1 minute to go. Francisco Horta commits. It's going to be yellow flags. Yellow flags on the course. He can't make the overtake. Safety car. We're going to finish under safety car here. 1 minute to go, and the safety car's out, and that's why we've got a stationary car. It's Christian Moore. So Christian Moore is stationary at the third corner, so that brilliant battle is going to fizzle into nothing, and the safety car will conclude proceedings here. So Lightning will not strike a fourth time for Marcel Muller. His bad luck streak is over. Oh, it's not. My apologies. I thought it was Christian Moore. It's not. It's Marco Bili. So Marco Bili's car is stationary at turn one. And that is very unfortunate indeed. So Marco Bili retiring from the race and brings out the safety car, which will wrap up proceedings here at Portimão. Marco Bili's car stationary. But of course, the safety car has to bunch up the field. 3, 2, 1, time's up. So the safety car has been called. The safety car called here at Portimão at the worst possible time for the battle for the final two second and third positions here. So it's not good timing. Let's have a replay of what happened to Marco Bili. He lost the car completely. Was there contact? No, there wasn't. And Marco Bili tried to get the car started again by the look of things. I wonder if in trying to get the car started, he might have snapped the drive shaft. As if you get on the throttle a little bit too quickly with a bit too much wheel spin, it is not easy to snap the drive shaft, but that's kind of how it would end up working out. And there is the safety car. Well, there is not going to be a nail-biting finish to conclude this race. What there is, however, going to be is a sense of relief for Marcel Muller. The leader of race one, round one, got a puncture. The leader of race one, round two, got a puncture. The leader of race one, round three, incredibly got a puncture. This time, Lady Luck will finally give him something to smile about in 2025. And he is going to take the victory behind the safety car in front of the championship opponents, Christian Hahn and Miguel Paludo. So race one is going to finish rather lackluster-wise compared to what we expected it to. And I have to say, that's the first safety car of the weekend so far in the dying seconds of the race. But thank goodness it wasn't for anything particularly catastrophic or dangerous. It was more for Marco Bili's car just out of the line, essentially, after he tried to restart after a spin in turn one. Couldn't get the car moving. So we're going to finish on the safety car. The top 5 then in the pro category are going to be Marcel Muller taking the win from Christian Hahn and Miguel Paludo, and they'll be joined on the rostrum. Top 5 get podiums in this category, don't forget, by Antonella Bassani and Matthias Camperato, because Tiago Vivacqua is going to take a penalty, don't forget, for track limits infringements, and now they're under safety car just to add insult to injury. So Tiago Vivacqua is probably going to drop behind Lucas Salas in the pro category. He's going to drop to about 7th or 8th place, I think. So that is not good news, and it's going to rob him of silverware. But track limits penalties are track limits penalties. You can't choose to take them. The victory in the sports category then is going to go the way of Marcos Regadas, and joining him on the podium will be Miguel Mariotti in 2nd in the class. Alcifel Manito just hangs on for 3rd, ahead of Francisco Horta and Nelson Montero. And the man that we had on your screen a short while ago is going to get the victory in the rookie category. Silvio Modestoni ahead of Bruno Campos, Marco Pisani, Flavio Champao and Vanier Pontes. So the safety car will lead them round, but it's a mere formality. The safety car is out, they cannot overtake to the line, so it's going to be a sensational victory then. And finally a victory in 2025 for Marcel Muller, after he was robbed at Velocita on 2 occasions and then robbed again during the first race at Interlagos in round 3. Finally, Marcel Muller is going to have something to be happy about. So as they come across the line, the checkered flag will fly, and Marcel Muller will finally take his first win of 2025. A great result for Marcel Muller. It's not perhaps the way he would have wanted to win, but it will certainly secure some decent points on the board. With the penalty applied, poor Tiago Vivacqua will drop all the way to 26th position. So Marcel Muller is your race winner in Carrera Cup, ahead of Christian Hahn, Miguel Paludo, Antonella Bassani and Matthias Camperato. That'll be a very exciting podium in just a few short minutes' time. Then, of course, we'll have the 2nd and final race of the weekend in the Sprint Challenge. But well done to Marcel Muller. He takes the victory in front of Christian Hahn and Miguel Paludo, with Antonella Bassani and Matthias Camperato in the top 5. There is your winner in the sport category, the Infinix car of Marcos Regadas, ahead of Miguel Mariotti, Alcifel Manito, Francisco Horta and Nelson Montero. Good effort from that lady too, Antonella Bassani, P4 once the penalty is applied for Tiago Vivacqua. And let's look back and find the winner in the rookie class. There is Silvio Modestoni, taking another win in the rookie category. Good effort from Silvio Modestoni. He takes the win in rookie ahead of Bruno Campos, Marco Pisani, Flavio Champao and Vanier Pontes. So while it wasn't exactly the finish that I think many people would have liked to take us to the end of a nail-biter, certainly in terms of the championship, it's another brick in the wall for Miguel Paludo in 3rd position. Marcel Muller finally getting the jinx off his back in race 1 this season to take a victory which probably he would have been able to hold on to in front of Christian Hahn anyway. So it's not a big drama for him there, but good efforts all round further back, including for Antonella Bassani, who, thanks to not incurring the same track limits penalties as Tiago Vivacqua, will get her best finish of the season in P4. And then, of course, they go into tomorrow, where it's all to play for. That'll be fascinating to see what the lay of the land will be in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil Race 2 tomorrow here at Portimão in Portugal, on the beautiful Autódromo Internacional Algarve. They say it's kind of in the sticks here, kind of in the middle of the countryside. It's one of the things I love about it. It's so picturesque, so beautiful, and the surrounding area around the track is so quiet that when you're walking down the road adjacent to the course, all you can hear is the rumble of these flat sixes. Into the pits then comes Christian Hahn, following in the wheel tracks of Marcel Muller. And the Portuguese summer holiday has finally given Marcel Muller something to smile about. The sense of relief in the Fabian Petrus crew for Marcel Muller must be absolutely unbelievable. After all the misery of Velocita, after all the misery of Velocita again, and then after the unbelievable misery of Interlagos. Look, his hands are in the air. Finally, finally I get a win in 2025. I've waited long enough for it. It took him till June. It should have been in the first weekend in March. But he finally breaks the jinx. Marcel Müller gets his first win of 2025. And then, of course, there are victories too for Marcos Regadas in sport and this man, Silvio Modestoni, in the rookie category. Well, Marcos Regadas is very happy indeed with his win in sport. Drove a beautifully solid race ahead of Matthias Camperato on the road. And now the joy for Silvio Modestoni. He gets another victory in the rookie category. Look at the celebrations at both crews for Regadas and for Modestoni. That's what I love about having three classes in one race. There are so many happy faces. And of course, there are 15 trophies to hand out because they have 3 podium ceremonies in quick succession. First the Carrera Cup, then the sport, and then the rookie. And then as soon as the rookie podium is over, we'll go straight to the grid once again for the sprint challenge to get underway. And that is where the championship leader in the sprint challenge, Carlos Chavez, is not going to be starting from the front row of the grid. We'll talk about that very shortly. But for the moment, these guys get to celebrate in fine style. Look at that. His state flag for Silvio Modestoni. He takes that everywhere he goes, just in case he gets to go on the podium. You've got to remember that if you're a racing driver, you're a passionate person. If you're a Brazilian, you are a passionate person. If you're a Brazilian racing driver, there isn't enough passion left for anybody else in a weekend. Well done to Silvio Modestoni. Excellent work. Really had to work hard there in the middle of the gaggle of cars he wasn't even racing against. Could easily have got into the wars there with the likes of Monteiro, Salman, Malucelli and Linu Perez, but didn't. He drove calmly and he drove maturely. So here's the provisional result then of the first race of the weekend. Marcel Müller taking his first win, finally, ahead of Christian Hahn and Miguel Paludo. Antonella Bassani, 4th overall, ahead of the winner in sport, Marcos Regadas. Then Camperato, Mariotti, Lucas Salas, Alcifeld Benito, who is probably looking a bit unusual out there on the grid without his father in the mix as well. And Francisco Horta rounding out the top 10. The gap is, of course, 3.6, but that's not representative of anything because they finished the race under safety car. So a fascinating challenge then for the contenders. And we had a quick change then to the lineup for the sprint challenge because, of course, we've already got the battles out on the course from the previous run. The positions have already changed hands there to get themselves ready for the next run. So a very clean race then in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil. Right from the start, we only really got our drama and our disappointment at the very tail end of the race. And that, of course, came from the battle that we saw from Marco Billi losing the back of the car. The early stage battle really was between Miguel Paludo and Christian Hahn. Paludo thought he had his opportunity, but Christian Hahn was determined. He wasn't going to let Marcel Müller get too far away. Loving some of these slow-mos as they come up the hill. But Marcel Müller really was in his element here at Portimão. Finally, he gets a little bit of luck from the racing gods this time. But a third position for Miguel Paludo bodes well in the championship. He's only going to lose a couple of points, realistically, here to the man in P2. So Christian Hahn will certainly take the title fight into the second race of the weekend. But don't forget, after this race tomorrow, there's only going to be 4 races left in the sprint campaign. They'll have 2 at Estoril and 2 at Interlagos at the end of the season. So you've got to make every race count from here on in. And although it will be frustrating that Marcel Müller has basically had 4 races taken away from him over the season, race 1 in each of the 3 rounds, and then things went from bad to worse at Interlagos. He didn't score a single point in race 2 either. A safety car finish. The purists probably won't like to see that, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a victory, and a very fine one indeed for Marcel Müller. He can be very happy with that. So the podium is going to be a fairly happy affair, I think, in all 5 categories. It was always going to be a very exciting affair up front, and certainly for Marcel Muller, he wanted, really wanted to get himself into a good position. There are your three winners in the three classes. Marcel Muller in Carrera, Marcos Regadas in Sport, and Silvio Modestoni in Rookie. And by the sound of things, we're getting that first podium ready. As I mentioned before, it's the top 5 drivers in each category that makes their way to the podium and picks up some silverware. So there we are. The 5 drivers make their way to the podium. Now, of course, you're not going to get Matthias Camperato on the overall podium because he finished 6th in the race in the end. I wonder if Antonella Bassani has been told that she's got to go to the podium, because the podium has 4 drivers on it and not 5. And Antonella Bassani, the 19-year-old, is the one who should be on the podium with her fellow drivers. So we're just waiting to see what's happened to Antonella Bassani, who will hopefully join the podium ceremony very shortly indeed. Because, of course, you can't continue on with the podium ceremony. It's protocol until all 5 drivers are there. There is a procedure. There is Antonella Bassani. Thanks for joining us, Antonella. She did a good job in the end there. She's getting better every time, having stepped out of her Sprint Challenge campaign 2 years ago to win the title. She was the vice champion last year and then stepped up in the Carrera Cup this year. It's a big jump, and she's done a fair job there. So the top 5 drivers then in the race have been fantastic throughout, and a great effort from them all there. As Marcos Regadas takes 5th overall, Antonella Bassani takes 4th, 3rd place for Miguel Paluda, the championship leader, 2nd place for Christian Hahn. But Marcel Muller, redemption is finally his, and he finally gets to stand on the top step of the podium in 2025. That took a lot of hard work this season, more work than Marcel Muller was ever expecting to put in. Not a big champagne spray there from anybody on the podium, because don't forget, they've still got a race to do tomorrow. They don't want to give the marshals, they don't want to give their mechanics and hangers on too much washing to do tonight. So they'll probably have a little bit more fun with the champagne tomorrow. Sounds to me like cars are out on the circuit ready for the Sprint Challenge. We've obviously got 2 more podiums to conduct. The Sport Challenge and the Rookie Challenge. But there is the replay of the finish for Marcel Muller, who finally got his first win of the year underway. And that has very nearly doubled his points tally for the season with just 1 race. That is how shocking the bad luck has been for Marcel Muller in 2025. This is one of the legends of this championship. So we've got a very busy podium ceremony now for the sport category. The top 5 drivers collecting their silverware once again. But the noise of the flat 6s in the Sprint Challenge getting ready as they go around on their formation lap drowns out any podium music that these guys get to celebrate with. But well done on the top step of the podium to Marcos Regadas. Excellent performance. Having come from the overall podium, he now gets to celebrate on the sport top step. So that is a very good victory for him. The drivers around him are very happy, so they'll celebrate in fine style. And then, of course, there will be the rookie podium shortly after that. And that, of course, will be topped by Silvio Modestoni. The front row of the grid, incidentally, in Sprint Challenge, while we're waiting for Silvio Modestoni to climb the podium in rookie, we'll see Sadek Leiter and Leonardo Herrmann on the front row of the starting grid, ahead of Cecilio Rebello and Lucas Locatelli. Bring it on. It's going to be a really exciting battle. 2 Sprint Challenge drivers on the front row of the grid, 2 Sprint Challenge sport drivers on the second row of the grid. So that race is coming up in a very short moment. Because, of course, they're on the formation lap for the Sprint Challenge while these guys are finishing off their podiums. But the man who will not be stopped and will not be vanquished, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. The man on the top step of the rookie podium, celebrating in style across the length and breadth of the Portimão podium here in Portugal. It is Silvio Modestoni. His fellow rookies around him drink in the moment and enjoy every second of it. But at the moment, they are hard pushed to catch Silvio Morostoni. What a young driver he is proving to be in his rookie campaign in the category. Don't forget that Morostoni is one of the many drivers to step up and convert from the Sprint Challenge last year. So this is great to see just all the hard work he's doing in Carrera Cup. The flag falls from his shoulders. I don't think anybody back home is going to mind. Their heroes done a great job. So as the rookie drivers get busy with the fizzy in a way that neither of the two previous podiums really showed us, they want to have fun. They want to really celebrate themselves. We now get ourselves ready for the next battle out on the course. Our race winners in the Carrera Cup. A brilliant triple victory then for the three drivers in question. Marcel Muller taking the victory in the Carrera Cup. In the sport category, it was a very valiant victory indeed for Marcos Regadas, and in the rookie category, it was, of course, Silvio Morostoni. As you can see, we're on the second formation lap about to start then in the Porsche Sprint Challenge. The second race of the day then, about to get underway behind the safety car. So we'll talk you through the grid of 22 cars, which of course will join forces with the cars from Porsche Carrera Cup next week when we have the first of our endurance races. Sadok Leiter and Leonardo Herrmann lining up on the front row of the grid, an all-challenge front row. Then Cecilia Rebelo, another great teenage talent in the world of Brazilian racing, alongside Lucas Locatelli, a sport row 2 lockout. Caio Castro, fifth on the grid. That'll be interesting. Gerson Campos, P6. But look out for Caio Chavez. He's going to be lining up even further back than the top 6 as he gets himself into position on that fourth row of the grid alongside Matheus Roque. Caio Chavez will not want to stay in 8th position for long. Can he make the progress from P8 on the grid on the outside of row 4? Rounding out the top 10, it's George Filio alongside William Araujo, who's going to be there leading the charge in the rookie category in P10. Then on the 6th row of the starting grid, just outside the top 10, we have young Daniel Newman continuing his amazing rookie season alongside Claudio Reina in the 99 car. Luis Souza is alongside Rafael Bernardes in the 100 car. Then it is Marquinson Marquez alongside Mario Dallara. And as they continue to work their way through the field, it is Andrzej Gajinski in his comeback season alongside Rafa Brocchi. And then we have Fernando Aruda alongside Claudio Chimiao. And the last two contenders on the grid will be Ricardo Zilberman alongside Jose Mora Nito. So all of the contenders giving themselves a chance to work their way further forward as they get themselves warmed up on this rolling lap. Just one final start. They will charge their way to the first corner. It's going to be a sizzling battle in the Porsche Sprint Challenge of Brazil. They've seen how the Carrera Cup guys can do it. Now we're going to get to see how the Sprint Challenge drivers will get themselves underway. Will it be Leiter, Herrmann, Rebelo, Locatelli, Castro, Campos, Matheus Roque, or even Caio Chavez, the championship leader, that can make the charge forward down to the first corner first? Here at Portimão, a lot of unknowns for our competitors, as once again we will have 25 minutes go on the clock, and after 25 minutes we will have one extra lap, and whoever is the winner at the end of that one will be our race winner. So to a certain degree, the race doesn't start until the timer really runs down to 0, so you've got to be as close to the race lead at that moment as humanly possible. Sadok Leiter in the red and black machine, pole position alongside the chrome silver of Leonardo Herrmann. Watch out for the bright pink and dark purple of Cecilia Rebelo, third on the grid. We're going to go racing for the second time. This time it's in Sprint Challenge, and we are going to be under starters' orders as we charge forward to the line now. A great start here at Portimão. It's going to be a tough run to the first corner. Cecilia Rebelo's got a great start. It's going to be 3 wide as they come into the first corner, and Cecilia Rebelo is going to take the lead. And she runs wide on the exit. Cecilia Rebelo, all that hard work, and she drifts wide on the exit. She's going to drop into 4th position again then. The rest of the field try and work their way through without drama, without incident, as they climb up the crest. And it looks to me as though it's going to be Leiter in front of Leonardo Herrmann. Cecilia Rebelo has dropped back into 4th place behind Lucas Locatelli. No, it's not Locatelli. It is Caio Castro who has worked his way into third position. A mega start for Caio Castro. He is there in P3 now. So they climb the hill for the first time under green flag conditions. And it's going to be a tough one for Cecilia Rebello to come back from that, because she did lead the race initially into turn 1, but she ran a little bit further to the side and got her tyres very dirty there, as we watch the 7 of Luis Souza, who is looking for a podium in the sport category here today. Top 5 in the class would do that. As they drop down the crest, there are a couple of drivers really trying to utilise this opportunity as they charge their way through on this first lap. Rising up the crest. Doing their best to work in close proximity, but it's going to be very tight to the front between Sada Gleiter and Leonardo Herrmann. Watch out for the battles further back as well. Cecilia Rebello has recovered after her little sojourn onto the runoff area, but her brief lead, it was only a metre or so before she drifted wide and sadly back down into 4th position. They climb up the crest, and it's going to be a really close battle as they now try and get themselves into a neat position as they run through in close proximity. 23 minutes to go then as we complete the first lap, and it will be a very strong charge in position. And so it's going to be a really solid situation for all of the competitors as they run in close proximity. So later, Herrmann, Castro, Rebello, Locatelli, Campos, Chavez. Caio Chavez has only been able to make up 1 place off the start, but there's plenty more time still to go in this one, as Geração Campos is trying to hang close to Lucas Locatelli. Through to the radius of the hairpin. Back on the power, trying to dial their way back up the climb. This is a very tough part of the course in the early stages when you've got cold tyres, but there is the hard charging Caio Castro up into 3rd position already. Having had a difficult start to proceedings, he found himself lower on the grid than he wanted to be, but certainly not as low as Caio Chavez, who is down in 7th place now, trying to get back on terms with Geração Campos. But Leonardo Herrmann in the shiny chrome machine, 2nd position, chasing down Sada Gleiter, who's in a brilliant position to take a victory here. But Cecilia Rebello, despite leading briefly into turn 1, is still leading in sport. Big lock-up from Leonardo Herrmann. You can't afford to do that too often. You do not want to compromise the quality of your tyres as Herrmann looks to get his move out of the hairpin, getting back on the power. So Leonardo Herrmann chasing down Sada Gleiter, looking for his run as he dips in around the final turn. You dip down the crest and then come back up the kick. So Leonardo Herrmann looking to challenge Sada Gleiter. There's a nice little battle kicking on behind Cecilia Rebello. That's for 5th place between Lucas Locatelli and the new fastest man on track, Caio Chavez. Diving on the inside of Rebello. Oh, that was so close into turn 1. Locatelli thought he had the chance to go for the lead in the category there. So Herrmann still pushing Sada Gleiter. Just over 20 minutes to go, and Sada Gleiter's really going to have to work hard to keep Leonardo Herrmann at bay. They go down the drop towards turn 5. This is where things are going to get very tricky indeed, and Leonardo Herrmann's going to make the move on the inside line. And that is a clean move from the chrome machine. Just call him Hawkwind. The silver machine moves into the lead. Good job from Leonardo Herrmann. So Leonardo Herrmann now takes the lead then from Sada Gleiter and Caio Castro. Then it is Cecilia Rebello leading in the sport category. Hopefully we'll see a replay of that move. Here it is again from another angle. Herrmann actually really had to work hard to slow the car down. Slight lock-up, but then he rolled back off the power and corrected the trajectory on the exit. Look at the way he corrects the steering and tightens in to make sure there's no retaliation from Sada Gleiter. It didn't start well, but he certainly tidied up the move on the way through. Oh, and off the road. Well, that didn't last long, I'm afraid to say. That is Ricardo Silberman. So Ricardo Silberman goes into the gravel, and I think that's going to be a safety car, because Ricardo Silberman has beached his car in what is going to be a vulnerable position. They need to make a quick decision here because they're coming through to the end of the lap. I wonder if the safety car is going to be called fairly instantly here, or if they're going to continue with the proceedings. They have to try and figure out where Silberman is in relation to everybody else. But certainly for the moment, Leonardo Herrmann is going to go past the pits. There we go, safety car lights come on. But it's going to be a bit late. Look, they've already gone past the pits. So the safety car is not going to catch the leaders here, unless it's already gone out, of course. But it is Ricardo Zilberman, unfortunately. It's got caught out of there. Meanwhile, there is an investigation into Herrmann versus Sadek Leiter. So the battle for the victory is now being assessed by the officials. Well, I'm interested to see what they think they want to investigate. I didn't see any contact. But there's certainly an investigation going on about an incident between those two. So that could be an interesting conclusion to the affairs. But we are under safety car, so until the safety car catches the pack at the beginning of the lap again, Leonardo Herrmann essentially becomes the safety car until they complete the lap. And Leonardo Herrmann will form up behind that safety car once again. So we had to wait quite a long time before the first safety car appeared in Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil. Certainly didn't have to wait 10 minutes, and that's why we're under safety car. You just saw off to the right, that was the number 18 of Ricardo Zilberman. His car beached in the gravel trap. And that is not the way he wanted his race to end at all. So our trackside camera picking up the cars as they go through the medium crest in the beginning of the third sector there. Or certainly the approach to the third sector, if not the beginning of it. But of course, as the drivers are running behind the safety car, the time continues to tick down. So the race distance remains the same on time, even if it's not the same on race laps, because it's not timed by race laps. It's timed by the timer on the digi counter on your screen. And we're going to have 17.5 minutes left of racing. Although, of course, by the time the safety car actually catches the pack, I'm guessing that we're going to restart racing again with about 14 minutes to go. So we'll be approaching the half-distance mark, but not quite there. And there is this brutal sense of urgency now between the leading contenders. And there is the safety car waiting to pick up the race leaders here. So they look over the crest, they see Leonardo Herrmann, and they set off around the course. They'll catch the cars in the field, and then they will lead them around for what will be the second and hopefully last lap under safety car. So Herrmann, Sadek Leiter, and Caio Castro. That's the top three. Then in fourth position, it is Cecilia Rebelo and Lucas Locatelli. Now, both of those drivers are going to end up on the overall podium, because don't forget, in Carrera Cup Brazil, the top 5 overall go to the main podium. Is that a car breaking down there? I think we've got a car breaking down under safety car, have we? Or at the very least getting out of the way. Yeah, Caio Castro's in trouble. Caio Castro's breaking down here. So Cecilia Rebelo has overtaken him. And I think if we go back to a wider angle on the exit of turn 3, I think we're going to find that Caio Castro has broken down behind the safety car. Now that could extend the safety car period if that's the case. So look through the line. Where is Caio Castro? He's nowhere to be seen. So Cecilia Rebelo has moved up to third position behind Sadek Leiter. So we need to now figure out where is Caio Castro. Because behind Cecilia Rebelo is the 177. That's Lucas Locatelli. Then it's Caio Chavez, who's up into fifth position. And that could be one heck of a restart for him down in fifth position. So a very tricky scenario. 15 minutes remaining in the race then behind safety car. But if Caio Castro's car is broken down and clapped out at the side of the road, we could be behind the safety car for another lap here. So I'm looking through the line, and it's very apparent that Caio Castro is nowhere to be seen, presumed missing. Right down at the back, that is the 58, I do believe, of Claudio Chimiao. Yes, and Caio Castro is not there. There is his car parked up on the exit of turn 3. Disaster for Caio Castro. That does his championship so much damage at this stage of the season when you've only got 6 races to go. And Castro, of course, is trying to take as many points off Caio Chavez as possible. So I think this is going to keep the safety car out for another lap. So that's probably going to drop us to a race distance of about 10 minutes left. Bitter gall and disappointment for Caio Castro, who was up in third place, but he breaks down behind the safety car. Wow. An absolutely sensational race already, and we've only had essentially 3 racing laps of it, because on the third lap we realized we needed a safety car. We've completed 2 laps behind the safety car. We now need a third, of course, because Caio Castro's car is now stricken on the sidelines. Without that, we would have gone racing on this lap. 13.5 minutes to go. So we're at the half distance mark pretty much already in this second race of the day and the first race of the weekend for the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil. Don't forget, they're racing here today and tomorrow, but we're also going to get, a week from now, these cars will combine with the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil teams, and they will all go to battle on the Portimão circuit, on the same circuit at the same time, with a second driver. In most cases, it will be these drivers' coaches that they will join forces with. So it's a particularly tough battle out on the course here. 13 minutes to go, and the safety car is at the head of the field for a third consecutive lap. But of course, it's going to be a fairly decent and fairly quick restart, as the battle will continue. But will Leonardo Herrmann be able to soak up the pressure of Sadek Leiter in second position and Cecilia Rebelo, of course, in third place? It could be very tricky on the restart. And we are already now at half distance. It's a 25-minute race, and right now we have 12.5 minutes left of this race under safety car. So Leonardo Herrmann trying to stay as close to the safety car as possible on this restart to try and encourage it to go a bit quicker. But have they recovered Caio Castro's car in time? And not only that question needs to be answered, but also has the recovery crew been able to put the recovery vehicle back in its reset position? Because it's one thing to clear the circuit, but you have to make sure that the recovery vehicle is back in its original position again before we get the command to go. There's Cecilia Rebelo in the number 98, and the Brazil F4 race winner turned Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil driver finds herself now in third position, and more crucially than that, she looks good for her first victory of the season in the sport category. So that would be fantastic. Isn't it amazing? You wait ages for a decent woman in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil paddock, and then 2 come along at once, because we've obviously got Antonella Bassani having been a Sprint Challenge champion in 2023 and the vice champion last year in 2024. But now we've got Cecilia Rebelo, who is looking good for a victor in the Sport Challenge. There is William Araujo. He's looking good at the moment for the victory in rookie, but the man he's racing against, Daniel Newman, is right behind him. Now, the safety car is still there. Are the lights still on? Yes, they are, so we're not going to come in. It looks as though Caio Castro's car has been a little bit more difficult to remove than we first thought. So we are out behind the safety car for a 4th consecutive lap. So now we're going to see the safety car continue to patrol the field for a 4th consecutive lap. And there is a message that's come out. Right. It looks as though there is going to be a penalty handed out. Well, this is the battle, of course, between Leonardo Herrmann and Sadek Leiter. Well, this is an interesting one. We're going to need to try and figure out what the state of play is here, because obviously there was an investigation into the incident between 23 and 66. That is Leonardo Herrmann and Sadek Leiter for the lead of the race. So now we essentially need to figure out what the situation is here. Is there going to be a penalty handed out or not? I think I need to double check on that one, essentially. So I don't think it's going to be a penalty. No, they've investigated what was a potential incident, but it looks to me as though there is going to be no penalty handed out to either driver there in that one. They looked into it, they investigated, and the race officials have said no further penalty. 9.5 minutes to go then in this second race of the day here at Portimão, and then the drivers will obviously go to bed with a lot of food for thought ahead of the race tomorrow. 9 minutes to go then. Leonardo Herrmann has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. There is the car being recovered of Ricardo Zilberman, and that car is still on the back of the low loader. It's taking quite a while to recover it because obviously they've only got a limited number of recovery vehicles. But of course we've got 2 cars stranded out on the circuit. And you can't stop the race in the same way that you do in Formula 1 because it's not a regulation here in the Porsche Carrera Cup. You only really stop the race if there's a monstrous accident that needs medical intervention. Otherwise, the timer continues on. And you at home will be sitting there thinking, well, hang on, they just need to go racing, don't they? Well, that's not the point. They pay the price for the difficulties of racing, but they sign up for that when they go through the regulations. Now, are those lights out on the safety car? I think they might be. So Ricardo Zilberman's taken the low loader off the course, or had the low loader take him off the course, I should say. The lights are not flashing anymore on the safety car, so that tells me that we are going to restart this time by with just a whisker over 8 minutes to go. So by my math, we're going to get, I think, no more than 4 laps, maybe 5 laps. The safety car peels off, and it's all down to Leonardo Herrmann. He's going to drop the hammer as they come out of the final turn. They're going to come back up the crest, and in behind chasing them, it's going to be Rebello, Locatelli, Chavez, Campos, Roque, and George Crispin as they go up the crest. It's going to be green, 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 green here at Portimão. We restart. Sadok Leiter chasing down Leonardo Herrmann to the first corner. 7.5 minutes to go. Sadok Leiter trying to come right round the outside of Leonardo Herrmann into turn 1. He has to think very carefully about where he's going to pitch the car. The back end nearly comes around on him. And up the inside of Cecilio De Bello, that's going to be a hard charge from Locatelli, who's going to get into 3rd position. Locatelli, P3, and now takes the lead of the sport category as well. So Lucas Locatelli has got ahead of Cecilio De Bello on the restart. And now already trying to challenge Sadok Leiter. So Lucas Locatelli fancies his chances here to go into 3rd position. Oh no, it's not. It's Caio Chavez. My apologies. Chavez has worked his way up from 5th to 3rd in the space of 2 corners. And now Chavez is breathing down the neck of his opponents. Meanwhile, Cecilio De Bello has already conceded the position there to Gerson Campos, but not the lead in sport. So Cecilio De Bello is still leading in the sport category, albeit now behind Chavez and Campos, but they're in the challenge category, so that's not a concern. Realistically, for Cecilio De Bello, a sport victory is still good for her, provided she can stay in front of Lucas Locatelli. And at the moment, she still is, but look at Caio Chavez all over the back of Leonardo Herrmann and Sadok Leiter. There is the 32 car. That is Matthias Roque, who is now putting the pressure on Cecilio De Bello. So Roque's made a fantastic restart and got ahead of Lucas Locatelli. And now all 3 of those drivers, Rebello, Locatelli and Roque, are battling away for the victory in sport, just as these 3 are battling away for the victory in challenge. Herrmann's got a big pressure cooker building up now. Sadok Leiter has got Caio Chavez breathing down his neck. They're going to come off the turn together. Chavez is going to get his run on Sadok Leiter as they go down the straight. And surely Chavez can then use the slipstream to get past Leonardo Herrmann as well. Down the straight and into turn 1. Can he get 2 into 1? Herrmann's going to try and shut the door on Caio Chavez, but Chavez will commit. He'll get through on the inside, but he'll have a tighter trajectory. Herrmann can try and come back at him. Chavez has got the lead. Can Herrmann get back on him on the inside line? Chavez slams the door in his face. And now that's going to give Sadok Leiter a run round the outside of Leonardo Herrmann to get into 2nd position. They might bang doors. Sadok Leiter forces the issue. Chavez to the lead, Leiter to 2nd, and Leonardo Herrmann to P3. Fantastic racecraft. And now look at Gerson Campos. He fancies a top 3 finish here as well. Can he get the run on Leonardo Herrmann? 5 minutes to go. Cecilio De Bello has got a lot of pressure on her shoulders too to try and keep the victory in the sport category in front of Matthias Roque and Lucas Locatelli. 4th position in the category there is George Filho as well. So watch out for George Crispin Filho in 4th position in the category. But there is Cecilio De Bello. She's pulling away from Roque. She's not losing the grip to Locatelli. We're going to see a replay of how Chavez got the move, first on Sadok Leiter and then on Herrmann. Herrmann tried to squeeze Chavez into turn 1, but Chavez was determined. He had to slow off the power, tighten the radius back across the road, and Herman had no response as a result. So beautifully pitched in there by Caio Chaves. Sadok Leiter able, of course, to get through into second position as well. So Caio Chaves has worked his way through from 8th position back to the lead with a fastest lap as well of a 1 minute 50.762. So as they come through now, we're going to get 3 laps to go as they come over the top of the crest. And look at Cecilia Rebello. She has dropped her rivals in sport as Locatelli has got now ahead of Delara and Crispin. What's happened to Matheus Roque? Roque, who was in second place, he appears to have fallen off the road as Gerson Campos takes on Leonardo Herman into turn 1. So where is Matheus Roque? Well, he has dropped all the way to 14th behind Luis Souza. So there could be a replay coming for Matheus Roque. And there is an investigation, I'm told, between Rafa Brocchi and Rafael Bernardes. That doesn't involve the leaders. Those are the 2 cars at the back of the field at the moment. There's certainly nothing coming up on the screen untoward for Matheus Roque, other than the fact that his final sector was quite slow in comparison to the drivers around him. He lost 12 seconds by the look of it on that last lap. Now that says to me that that could have been a spin of some kind. So we've got 3 minutes to go. And that means that, for my money, we've got 2.5 laps remaining in this race. Gerson Campos still putting a massive amount of pressure on Leonardo Herman. No result yet in the investigation between Rafael Bernardes and Rafa Brocchi. But look at Cecilia Rebello. She has dropped the rest of the field in sport, and she is going back after the top 4. She's picked up her confidence. She really seems to love the Portimão circuit. It suits her driving style down to the ground. So this is where she can really make hay while the sun shines here in Portugal. So there is the 21. That is Daniel Newman, and he is the new leader in rookie. Once again, he's had a great duel with William Araujo and has been able to get himself into that lead position. Full credit to Mario Delara as well. Is that Rebello in front of Gerson Campos now? It is. What's happened to Gerson Campos? Gerson Campos has dropped out of the race in top 4. So Gerson Campos was in 4th position, but I didn't see Campos parked at the side of the road. So I'm not sure what's happened to Gerson Campos here, but Campos is no longer in 4th place. We didn't see him drop off the road, or at least I didn't. Maybe I was looking at my timing screen at exactly the wrong moment and I haven't spotted something, but Gerson Campos has not come through on this lap. Caio Chaves leads, Sadok Leiter 2nd, Leonardo Herman 3rd, and then it is Cecilia Rebello in front of the new fastest driver on track, Lucas Locatelli, who's got a 1 minute 50.4. Fastest lap of the race. Climbing up the crest, 1 minute 20 to go. And Sadok Leiter is still putting pressure on Caio Chaves as they quest for position. Up the climb, and Leonardo Herman is trying to stay with Sadok Leiter, who in turn is trying to give Caio Chaves some kind of opposition in the closing stages of this race. But I think it's going to be pretty convincing for Caio Chaves to pull away. Now the fastest driver on the track is Lucas Locatelli, a 1 minute 50.49, and it looks like there's going to be a penalty of 5 seconds added for infringement of track limits. Now that is for the 33. That is William Araujo. So that costs him any chance now of taking the victory in rookie, because a 5 second penalty. Oh, that is the 177. That is Lucas Locatelli. Lucas Locatelli falling off the road. Now, we've just lost some big names all in succession here. We lost Gerson Campos. We obviously had Matheus Roque dropping down to 13. And now we've lost Lucas Locatelli as well. Well, that pretty much wraps up the victory for Cecilia Rebello in sport in a neat little bow. But are we going to finish under safety car again for the 2nd race in a row because of Lucas Locatelli's stationary car? So the time ticks down to 0. Our time is up. So we are on the penultimate lap, but where is Locatelli's car? If it's in a dangerous position, they can't race side by side past it. They might be able to cover it with yellow flags, but it is going to be pretty tricky stuff now as we climb up the crest for the last time but one. And Caio Chaves holds the advantage over Sadok Leiter and Leonardo Herman, and we lose yet another competitor up at the sharp end. Lucas Locatelli out, Gerson Campos out, Matheus Roque down into P12. So some big drama all around. Where is Locatelli's car? There it is. So that, well, they might be able to cover that with yellow flags, but that is a dangerous position. So I don't know whether that's going to be a race finishing under safety car or not. If that is the case, then we've got our winners wrapped up. Caio Chavez in front of Cecilio Rebello, winner in sport, and Daniel Newman, winner in rookie. They have slowed the pace down. So I think we're going to finish under safety car again. Yellow flags, full course yellow. And we have slowed the pace down, and we're going to finish under safety car again. Well, drama here in Portimão as we lose car after car after car, and there is Gerson Campos's car abandoned at the top of the crest. So no wonder we need to finish under safety car, because we've got flotsam and jetsam developing all around the course, and there is a rather fed up Lucas Locatelli, and he's actually flapping his door. I wonder if his car is overheated. So Lucas Locatelli, oh, he's got a puncture. That'll do it. A left rear puncture. So he's just flapping the door to keep himself cool in the Portuguese sun, but a left rear puncture. That's curtains for Lucas Locatelli. So we go on to the Ultima Volta, the final lap, and it's going to be behind the safety car. What a charge from Caio Chavez then, from 8th on the grid to take the victory in race 1. He'll get to do a clean sweep tomorrow in race 2 if he can keep it all together and neat and tidy. Sadek Leiter and Leonardo Herrmann, they had an investigation into their incident, but there's no penalty handed to either driver. But full credit goes to the lady in 4th position, Cecilia Rebello. There she is. She's going to get the victory in the Sport Cup. All she's got to do is bring that car across the line at the end of this lap behind the safety car, and Cecilia Rebello will take her first victory in the Porsche Sprint Challenge paddock. A good effort as well in front of Mario Dallara and George Filio. Jose Morenito 4th in the category, Andrei Goczynski in 5th. Now, what I was going to say earlier on, before the race rather interrupted itself, is that the overall top 5 is made up of multiple classes, but the sport top 5 will not just be made up of sport drivers, but also a rookie if they get into the top 5. So the second podium is going to consist of Rebello, Dallara, Filio, and then Daniel Newman, who will come through for a podium in sport and the victory in rookie as well. The drone has never got closer to the cars than they have here at Portimão. That's one heck of a shot. Hollywood, take note. Absolutely brilliant shot of the cars going through the crest there. As we look at the 21, that is the car belonging to Daniel Newman. He will be our rookie victor. But after an astonishing drive, Caio Chavez, having had a problem in qualifying, 8th on the starting grid, didn't set a lap time in the final session of quali, but he's bounced back flamboyantly and in the way that only he is able to produce. So he will take the victory overall and, of course, in the challenge category. What a performance from Caio Chavez from the 4th row of the grid. He has fought his way back to supremacy with some really gutsy moves on both Sadek Leiter and Leonardo Herrmann. And so the safety car for the second race in a row here, second race today, will lead the field round, and we will finish the first Porsche Sprint Challenge race here at Portimão under safety car. And in quite magnificent circumstances, it's going to be Caio Chavez who takes the victory. Great work from Caio Chavez. The victory in the sport category will go to Cecilia Rebello, her first win in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil paddock. And the victory in rookie will once again go the way of Daniel Newman. The penalty that is handed out to William Araujo drops him out of the top 5. So Caio Chavez, vencedor, the winner in the Sprint Challenge. What a drive from 8th on the starting grid to take the win. Excellent display. 2nd for Sadek Leiter, 3rd for Leonardo Herrmann. And there were no other finishes in the Sprint Challenge category. 4th overall, Cecilia Rebello. 5th overall, Mario Dallara. But Cecilia Rebello comes of age here at Portimão. And in the first race of the weekend, It's the pink and purple machine of Cecilia Rebelo that becomes the latest winner in the Sprint Challenge paddock. She takes victory in the sport class with 4th overall. Antonella Bassani, former Sprint Challenge champion, will be watching on with delight as her friend Cecilia Rebelo takes her first win of 2025. And knowing her rate of development, it could be the first of many. Well done to Cecilia Rebelo, totally deserved. A fantastic drive, fending off all comers. Matthias Roque, Lucas Locatelli, Mario Dallara, and various other drivers all around her tried to crack her, but no chance. She was strong and she was resilient. And the victory once again in rookie goes to Daniel Newman. This has been his season all over in the Sprint Challenge rookie category. And despite the early threat from William Araujo, it's not his day. After a penalty will drop him all the way to 7th in the category and 18th overall. And that will sadly be dead last. As we have 4 retirements from this race. Lucas Locatelli, Gerson Campos and Caio Castro, all of whom could have had a very decent result here indeed. And Ricardo Zilberman, who was down at the back anyway. But Caio Castro retired from 3rd place. Gerson Campos retired from 4th place. Lucas Locatelli retired from the top 5 as well. He was hustling Cecilia Rebelo at the time. So big drama for 3 of the main contenders in this category. But what a fantastic finish for Caio Chavez, who really pulled out the stops from 8th on the grid on the 4th row and got himself back into the lead. Victory in the sport category for the first time in her career for Cecilia Rebelo, and victory as well in the rookie category for Daniel Newman, who was 7th overall. That means he'll take 2 trophies because he'll end up on the sport podium as well as being the winner in rookie. So, banging the top of the roof for Caio Chavez. What a spectacular drive. From 8th on the grid, Caio Chavez comes through for the victory, and that's what it means to the crew. The drive of the season so far for Caio Chavez. And he could make it the double tomorrow. What a magnificent win for Caio Chavez. Somebody is very, very happy indeed, and with good reason. Excellent display for Caio Chavez. A wonderful, wonderful display. So the victory goes the way then of Caio Chavez. Cecilia Rebelo climbs the roof of her machine as well. What a result for Cecilia Rebelo, her first win in the sport category. But it's yet another victory in rookie for Daniel Newman. He is having one heck of a season. As the drivers climb off their roofs, they will now go to the podium and celebrate what has been a truly sensational victory for both drivers. But nobody has been more spectacular in this one than Caio Chavez. Absolutely sensational. So here at Portimão, it has been a very interesting start to the progress, a very interesting start to the day then, as we've seen both races go through in very differing styles. A flat-out sprint to the victory in the end then for Marcel Müller in the first race, only robbed of a green flag to checkered flag finish by a late safety car period that slowed the field right down at the end. Marcel Müller, though, very much the deserving victor in race 1, ahead of his main rivals there in 2nd and 3rd. The valiance and brilliance in 2nd and 3rd places as they continue in close proximity. And then, of course, it is going to be a conclusion and a continuation. Look at the work that Caio Chavez put in to get ahead of first Sadek Leiter and then Leonardo Herrmann. Absolutely extraordinary the way he managed to get from 3rd to 1st in a heartbeat, essentially. What a drive from 8th position through to the victory. Absolutely extraordinary. What a result, what a performance. And a truly sensational run. Fourth position overall then for Cecilia Rebello. She'll go to the overall podium as well as to the sport victory. Look how close the drone gets at that particular point on the course as well. I'd love to see those pictures. But what a result. Three very deserving winners here at Portimão in the second race of the day. The checkered flag for Carlos Chavez from 8th position on the grid to the win. That is one heck of a drive. Soaking up the pressure in the sport category for Cecilia Rebello for 4th overall and a win in sport. And a truly dominant display in the end for Daniel Newman after yet more pressure from William Arroyo. So absolutely sensational stuff as they conclude in fantastic fashion. So a race full of excitement and a little bit of attrition as well across the two races today. We had a lot of excitement and a lot of drama in both the Porsche Carrera Cup and Porsche Sprint Challenge races. But we certainly came up with the goods. And for Marcel Muller and Caio Chavez, boy, have they given us some entertainment up front. Some great performances all the way. Well done then to Marcel Muller, Marcos Regadas and Silvio Modestoni for the class victories in Porsche Carrera Cup. And well done to Caio Chavez, Cecilia Rebello and Daniel Newman for their class victories in Sprint Challenge. We'll wrap up proceedings on day one here at Portimão of what is essentially a 9-day event because, of course, we've got the race weekend, next weekend, of course, in endurance, qualifying on Saturday and the race of 2.5 hours on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to that. But the battles from Leonardo Herrmann and Sadek Leiter were all well and good. But there was one man who was just able to drive around them all. Caio Chavez really pulled out the goods. 4th row of the grid start there. 8th position on the starting grid. And yet still, he was able to work his way forward. Watch Caio Chavez here. I thought we were going to hang with him. There he gets the move on the inside of Cecilia Rebello. That could have been a moment for Rebello to drop the ball. And she didn't. She just held firm against the likes of Lucas Locatelli, Matthias Roque, and then, of course, Mario Dallara. Some really good efforts there. And look at how much pressure Cecilia Rebello had to deal with in the background as the hard-charging Gerson Campos tried to work his way through. I think he did get ahead of Cecilia Rebello, but again, she was not going to be pushed and shoved around. So Campos got in front. There is the moment where he did so. But Rebello was more than a match for the drivers around her. But here is the race-winning move from Caio Chavez. Rolled his sleeves up, determinedly and doggedly charged in, and took the lead, which he would never lose. So the overall podium then, 5 drivers on the overall podium. 5th position for Mario Dallara. Excellent work for Mario Dallara. 5th position, very deserving indeed. And that's his best result, as far as I'm aware, in 2025. Cecilia Rebello, 4th overall. What a drive from Cecilia Rebello. 3rd position for Leonardo Herrmann after a very tough race. Sadek Leiter in 2nd position. He can be happy with that. But from 8th on the grid to 1st, Caio Chavez. What a euphoric drive that was. Magic scenes here in Portimão. A very happy chappie on the top step of the podium. And I wonder whether these guys will get to spray the champagne or whether they'll save their race suits for tomorrow. You tend to find that in the Sprint Challenge, they do go a bit more for the celebrations. So our racers from Brazil who traveled all the way to Portugal get to celebrate in fantastic fashion. And they get busy with the fizzy here at Portimão. The first of our 3 podiums. What a move that was from Caio Chavez. Full commitment. He'd already dealt with Sadek Leiter. He knew that Leonardo Herrmann was going to squeeze him in turn 1, but he didn't care. He just committed. He threw the car in. Job done. Thank you and good night. Absolutely brilliant. Full commitment from Caio Chavez. Well done to Sadek Leiter there as well, who was not going to lean over and take 2nd place lightly from Leonardo Herrmann. He really had to lean on him there in turn 4 as they went up the crest. And the deed was done. Very well worked there from Sadek Leiter off the exit of 3. Having lost the lead to Chavez, he thought, look, I can still grab 2nd here off Leonardo Herrmann. It might have been closer to the end. We'll never know the answer to that one, of course, because the safety car then slowed the pace of the field down completely for the broken and stricken cars of first Gerson Campos and then Lucas Locatelli. But that's how the deed was won, and the race was completed by Caio Chaves. Now we've got the sport podium, which of course combines sport and rookie together. And for the first time in 2025, it's Cecilia Rebelo on the top step. A breakthrough victory for her, and she is absolutely ecstatic with it. I think she's actually broken protocol there by lifting her trophy first, but I don't think anybody really cares. So fifth position on that podium then is Jose Morenito. He'll lift his trophy in fine style. So Jose Morenito in fifth position lifts the trophy. I think they're going to now run it in normal order as a result of Cecilia Rebelo lifting the trophy. So second place for Sadek Leiter, third place for second place for Mario Dallara, third place for George Filio, fourth place for the leading rookie Daniel Newman, and then fifth position for Jose Morenito. It's all got a bit out of hand here in terms of the order of the lifting of the trophies, all triggered by Cecilia Rebelo breaking early protocol and raising the trophy aloft anyway. But when you've got that kind of fan base, and we're going to be that loud at the side of the road, who cares? Enjoy the moment. And what a moment for Cecilia Rebelo. And for Cecilia Rebelo, that could be the first of many in 2025. And she goes bananas with the drivers beside her on the top step of the podium here at Portimão. Well done. Just when we thought Antonella Bassani was the only girl who could kick butt in the world of Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, in a year, Cecilia Rebelo has become a very impressive contender. Guest driver last year, Sprint Challenge driver this year, fourth overall in Portimão. Imagine what she and Antonella Bassani could do next week when they team up. I'm hoping to go to battle once again. What an opportunity that could be. So Cecilia Rebelo finishes strong, fourth position overall, and takes the victory in the sport category for the first time, and it could be the first of many. And so we come to our final podium ceremony here. Just 5 cars left to talk about in the rookie category of race 1. There is Cecilia Rebelo's replay of her mounting the roof. Great result. Antonella Bassani, race winner last year. Cecilia Rebelo, race winner just a year later. And so the 5 men on the podium in rookie. 5th position for Rafa Brocchi, good result for him. 4th position on the podium for Rafael Bernardes. Excellent result for him there in 4th position. 3rd place on the podium for Claudio Chimiao. He can be very happy indeed with that. 2nd position on the podium for Claudio Reina. Excellent effort from Reina. But the victory on this occasion goes the way, yet again, for Daniel Newman. Early challenge from William Araujo, eventually thwarted and then averted as Araujo took a track limits penalty anyway. But Daniel Newman's victory never really in doubt once he got ahead of William Araujo. So the conclusion of day 1 in Portimão is a very simple one to conclude. Victories in Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil for Marcel Muller, Marcos Ragadas and Silvio Modestoni. And in Sprint Challenge for Caio Chaves, Cecilia Rebelo and Daniel Newman. We get to do it all again tomorrow, of course, for race 2. But from me, Jake Sanson, from my colleagues at the sidelines, and of course to my producer, Nicholas Ottalu, we've all had a fantastic day of racing here at Portimão. There's more to come tomorrow. So from me and the whole crew, we'll see you for more action tomorrow here at the Autódromo Algarve. Bye for now.